Hi, I'm Dr. Gunnarsson with TMJ and Sleep Therapy Center of Utah, and thank you for joining us for TMJ Unlocked. I'm here with Mindy Lunsford, our myofunctional therapist. And today's topic, we wanted to discuss vitamin D and the importance of vitamin D and how vitamin D really affects the jaw joint, because most people think that vitamin D is just another vitamin that you take, and of course is not prescribed or given in the amount and dosages that we really require, especially given the state of Utah. You know, the funny thing is we thought we were heading into spring, an early spring. Of course, we've been up in the high temperatures lately, at least warmer to go outside, and then all of a sudden we've gone back down. So everyone's hiding back up into their houses again. And Mindy was pointing out a very interesting fact, was that because Utah is on above the 37th parallel, right?
Oh yeah, the latitude line.
That through the months of November to February, even if you go outside, you don't get any vitamin D exposure. And a lot of people think that vitamin D comes from exposure to the sun. And of course, in Utah, you really don't get enough. And they've always said that even, being outside all day long on a regular basis never produces enough vitamin D, no matter where you are in the world.
So vitamin D is really important for regulating a lot of our body systems. Our body treats it kind of more like a hormone, really, than a vitamin, because of all of the different things that it can affect. One of those things that it can affect, since we're talking about seasons, is mood. We know a lot of people have seasonal depression. It's one of those things that, because of those months, that even when we're outside, we're not getting enough sun exposure in the right wavelength for us to be able to produce that vitamin D, that it's really important for us to supplement. And really, you should be out for 5 to 15 minutes on a good quality time to be able to produce enough vitamin D just to maintain your levels. Most people in our hemisphere are low.
Yeah.
So supplementation is really important to get up to the level that you should be before you even consider maintaining.
So adding a vitamin D vitamin to your daily routine, making sure you said consistency is going to be the key, taking it on a daily basis. But vitamin D3, right, is the one you really want to make sure that you're taking up to 2,000 to 5,000 IUs on a regular basis. And I believe that if you take it, you want to make sure that you get the vitamin D3 with the K2, the potassium, which helps the absorption. And you were saying something else about absorption.
Right. You want to make sure that you take your vitamin D with a meal. It is fat soluble, so you want to make sure you're taking it with a meal that has some fat content in it. It doesn't have to be a heavy fat meal, but just a meal that has some fat content in it. For example, a salad with some salad dressing, something as simple as that, or a piece of, some meat that usually has some fat content in it as well. But that helps with the uptake of the vitamin D K2 supplement that you're taking.
Right. And just so you know, we have a Amazon storefront, and the ones that we use and we prescribe frequently in our office are found on the Amazon storefront. So you can find out what we prescribe and all the different things that we actually do and we use in our treating of TMJ are found on that site.
But as far as those bodily functions that vitamin D helps to regulate, mood is one of those things. So like we were talking about with the seasonal depression, if you're feeling a little bit under the weather and you haven't had your vitamin D levels checked, maybe you should take a look at it, because it's really important for that. Muscle function is another thing.
Muscle function is another thing. It affects the way the muscles interact, the muscles work. And muscle, it causes, and my real specialty is the jaw joint. And so I always tie all of this into how does this really affect the jaw joint? And we know that low vitamin D creates an increase in muscle tension. And that affects, a lot of discomfort and pain in the face, all that muscle tension. In fact, we get a lot of patients who come in and they say, I just feel so tight all the time, and I'm very, very sore by the end of the day in my face. And we get that muscle tension.
Right.
And so vitamin D is very important to decrease that muscle tension.
One of the other symptoms that we've had a lot of people come in with that maybe isn't necessarily related to the jaw joint, but with muscle tension, is that they're having jaw pain, and they also are being treated for restless leg syndrome, which can also be one of those symptoms that you get from vitamin D. That's one of the kind of crossover lines. It might be related to something else, but it could be related to that low vitamin D.
And you were talking about mood, and how the mood is affected from vitamin D. Definitely, mood increases your stress and anxiety levels, and we know that stress and anxiety levels affect our immune system. And so, in an indirect way, you've got vitamin D affecting your stress and anxiety, which affects your immune system. So then you get this decreased immune system, which is causing you to have more colds and infections and things that really our body used to be able to fight so well. I mean, we have enough stresses and anxieties and things that cause those things that we kind of get in our life on a daily basis. We don't need to have a decrease in our ability to actually cope with those. And so increasing that vitamin D, affecting that mood, is going to better your anxiety and your ability to fight infections and diseases.
Yeah. When our vitamin D is working effectively, it helps with anti-inflammatory. And when we have low vitamin D, we have more inflammation in our bodies. And then going along with that, jaw joint, that's one of the things that we need to regulate when we're going through therapy, is the inflammation that we have throughout our entire body, because it affects the jaw joint as well.
Yeah, it does. And in our efforts to help you with your jaw joint, we work really hard to decrease the inflammation in the body completely so that we can actually focus on just healing the jaw joint, and we're not constantly fighting that inflammatory process and those cytokines that are released by the body in order to fight the irritation that's going on in the body. One of the big things that like I said, I cover is the TMJ, and vitamin D is really important in the uptake of calcium and phosphorus into the bone. That's one of the big major points in talking about jaw joint disorders and jaw joint problems, because when we have low vitamin D, it decreases the bone density, and it can cause osteoarthritis in the jaw joint. And that's one of those things that's even harder for us to heal, is that osteoarthritis. Once that kicks in, then we're more in the way of what can we do to help you tolerate and help you deal with and cope with, and how can we reduce the pain and the discomfort. But getting it to heal completely is a lot more difficult. And so you get degenerative changes in that jawbone. We did talk about muscle function and how that increases the facial pain. And a lot of times with TMJ disorders, we have a lot of facial pain that we deal with. And so that vitamin D plays a very, very important role. You talked about inflammation, right. The cytokines are released. Then it also causes, because of that inflammation, we get a lot more jaw joint sensitivity. That pain in the jaw joint is increased just because of that inflammatory response that's going on in there. And of course, we talked about one thing, we talked about mood, and we talked about how that affects our anxiety and our stresses, which in turn, we talked about the immune system and how that works with that, but it also affects how we sleep at night.
Right.
Because if you've got a lot of anxiety, you talked about restless leg syndrome, mm-hmm. and how a lot of our patients come in here with restless leg, because that has to do with the muscles in the legs. But talking about that anxiety and depression and everything that comes along with that low vitamin D, that affects your sleep quality. And so you get very, very poor sleep quality. And that low sleep quality increases our pain sensitivity.
And our inflammation.
So there you go.
It's like...
It's one big full circle as it comes around. This causes that, which causes that, which causes that.
Which exacerbates this, and then you get stuck in this loop. So, let's get out of the loop. And the big thing, I think, is consistency. It's not something that you just take a supplement now and again. If you're low, you need to take supplements to get up to level, and you need to change habits outside during the March through November time to get outside and get more of that sun exposure, so your body can produce and maintain the vitamin D that it needs for you to stay healthy and to feel good and to be able to heal if we're treating you here in the office.
Yeah. It's becoming more and more frequent. We in our office are doing it, but in testing for vitamin D, we'll send you off for testing to make sure of what your level of vitamin D is, so we know how to supplement you the best. But if you're not going in for testing and we already know that you're low. Typically everybody's low. Supplementing, if you wanted to supplement yourself, do anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 IUs in a vitamin D pill, and take that in the morning. That's a very safe level. There's no really big concerns about overdosing in the vitamin D when you're just staying at that level on a daily basis.
And the vitamin D3 is the important supplement to take. It works better than the vitamin D2 does. Right. To make sure it's a vitamin D3. But that's kind of the segue into a challenge that we're going to be doing here in our office for what we're going to be calling a vitamin D challenge. Everybody in the office is going to have a little journal with them, and we're going to take some time each day getting some sun exposure, recording how much time we had in the sun and how it's affected our mood, our sleep, our aches and pains, or hopefully improvement of all of that. And so we're excited to be able to start this challenge. If you guys would like to participate with us, that would be fantastic.
We'll be posting regular updates on how we're doing. As we're doing our podcast, we'll let you know how we're doing on our vitamin D challenge. But it's so vitamin D, very important, plays a very, very important role in everything that we do here in treating your TMJ, but it plays a very important role in just your overall well-being, your health, and how important that vitamin D is becoming, and is becoming a bigger concern to doctors, physicians, in making sure that everyone has optimum vitamin D levels. So thank you for joining us for this podcast on vitamin D. And we'd love to have you join us for more podcasts and watch for us in the future.